Hey everyone, Odd here. Just wanted to give you all a quick update. So yeah, this stuff with Russia is really beginning to increase. There's over up to 9,000 Ukrainians that have been feared to be dead in Mariupol, according to a Fox News article. And I guess Putin is declaring victory in Mariupol. But anyway, I just wanted to show you guys this. As you guys know, Russia has just tested a Satan 2 um, intercontinental ballistic missile delivery system for nuclear warheads. And the Satan 2 is capable of carrying a warhead that has 10 vehicles on it that disperse out in in miles across from one another, like a gigantic circle, and they all explode at the same time. And the magnitude of this explosion can take out an area the size of Texas or France with just one of these Satan 2 delivery systems. That is very troubling and very terrifying to think about. And Putin just tested it yesterday, okay, or the day before. And this is all kind of falling into terms to what Putin has said in a briefing earlier about the sinking of the ship. I'm going to get into that here in a second. But anyway, it says RC-135 jets flew unprecedented mission to spy on Russia's new ICBM. So we're very concerned about this ICBM, and we are definitely watching what Russia's doing right now. Putin has become very isolated and is really beginning to do some really crazy, outlandish things. But anyway, next I wanted to get into here, little off the war subject, but we'll get back into it. Fed Chair Powell says a double-sized rate hike is on the table in May, making mortgages, car loans, and credit card interest even more pricey. So we're talking about extreme, um, extreme rate hikes. Okay, and this is just outrageous. We can barely afford to live as it is. I mean, I'm making pretty decent money and I'm struggling to survive. I mean, this is just getting crazy. It really is. And I mean, I just wonder what we're going to be able to do with all this. It's just insanity. But anyway, also SpaceX nabs eye-watering wins against Russian hackers in Ukraine, Pentagon says. So SpaceX is really touting their Starlink satellite system as being the wave of the future and showing its success to be able to broadcast internet service into a country like Ukraine that has its communications severed and making it very hard to hack these satellites. So, very interesting news there. Also, U.S. vows ironclad commitment to second Russia NATO front under pressure. So it says here the U.S. military has said it would continue to ensure security in the Baltic region, which finds itself at the center of soaring tensions between Russia and NATO, inflamed by the war in Ukraine, as Moscow issued new warnings over the Western alliance's potential expansion. Of course, Finland and Sweden have been in the talks in Norway of, Finland and Norway have been in the talks recently of joining NATO, and Russia has issued a massive statement against them, saying if they join NATO, there will be dire consequences. And yeah, so very interesting to see what's transpiring here with all this madness. But also, the U.S. will outfit 5 artillery battalions for Ukraine and provide new drones that explode on impact. So, figuratively speaking, here, we are sort of in a proxy war already with Russia. So World War III has already begun. And I am a firm believer that we already have troops there. There's been a lot of random sailors dying and fighter pilots dying and naval men dying from alleged incidents and other things. It kind of makes you wonder, is this a cover up? Because they're not trying to tell us the truth of how they're really truly dying. Also, flash Third World War statement from Russia television. So Putin pretty much said that World War III has already begun. So Putin is suggesting that we are already in Ukraine and already arming them and helping them and all this, which means that we are their enemy and we are already involved. So I believe that's part of the reason why Russia decided to do what it did and fire off that Satan too. Also says White House brings on retired three-star general to help coordinate Ukraine assistance. So now we're pulling on retired generals to help out. And for those of you who don't know, the capital was evacuated the other day as well. And I'm going to get into that here in a second. As you can see here, parachute performance from Nationals game causes evacuation of U.S. Capitol. Really? You know for a fact that they were warned about this way ahead of time, folks. So you mean to tell me that the Capitol was in a panic because of a planned parachute event from the United States military into the Nationals Park? Come on. Something else is going on. A lot of things are happening right now. We are not going to believe half of the rhetoric that is being pushed down our throats. It's just getting insane. Like, this world is just getting retarded anymore. But anyway, let's move on to the next. This is what I wanted to show you all about the Satan 2. It's the most powerful missile in the world, they say. And this thing can travel at Mach 20. Okay, so I believe that Russia testing this right now is their way of trying to stoke fear and panic. I think it's funny how these underground bunkers and stuff are being built, and a lot of key dignitaries are being moved to them. And I want to show you guys that now. I took a picture of this on my TV when Fox News was doing a live broadcast about luxury bunkers being built as nuclear fears rise. And kind of interesting that a lot of these bunkers are being sucked up right now, becoming hard to find. And they're very expensive. Like a normal average Joe like ourselves, we wouldn't be able, or Jane, we wouldn't be able to purchase these things. Like, these people are seriously preparing themselves for what is looking more and more every day like the inevitable. Like, it's all part of a plan. And the reason why I say plan is this. This is the mural at Denver, Colorado International Airport. Soviet-style soldier wearing a radiation gas mask, holding a Persian-style sword, stabbing into the dove of peace, holding a weapon of war. As you could see back in the background, the buildings being destroyed, the fire underneath of him, and all of the people around the world crying. See that? This is a testimony as to what is to come. Now, those who understand about the conspiracy at Denver Airport understand this. They have built this airport for a war, a nuclear war, with Russia. And originally NORAD was built for this, and NORAD is still active, yet a lot of the bunker busting technological weapons, that we utilize, Russia also has, and these bunker busters can go deep into a mountain. However, at Denver, Colorado Airport, it is so deep it would be very hard for these missiles to penetrate that far into the ground. So they had to recalibrate their design and come up with something a little bit more sufficient for the modern times. So this is a telltale sign of what they have planned. Okay? And also, we know this. The Georgia Guidestones. Commandment number 1. Maintain humanity under 500 million in perpetual balance with nature. They want to depopulate the earth. I find it quite interesting that all of these things are coinciding together, okay? And I really want you guys to understand this man named Alexander Dugin. Alexander Dugin is Vladimir Putin's right-hand man. He's really the mind behind Putin. And if you understand Alexander Dugin's philosophy and worldview, you'll see and understand that this man, Alexander Dugin, believes that the West needs to be annihilated from the face of the earth. And he uses religion as his catalyst. Alexander Dugin is an Orthodox Eastern Christian, and he believes that the Western Catholic-based Christianity system is evil and is of the devil, when the Eastern Orthodox Christian sect is of God himself. Now, we know that this part of this religion came from a certain area in Greece, okay? And some people believe that Orthodox Christianity is the older brand, or the older original Christianity, and that the Roman Catholic sect, or the paganistic sect, came out of Rome, but was originally born in Turkey. So the throne of Satan is specified directly in the Bible as being a place in Turkey. Okay, now this is where the the originality of the Catholic Church came about, before the fall of Rome, the conquering of Rome, etc., and the beginning of the Holy Roman Empire. Now, I find it interesting that Vladimir Putin also sat in Vlad the Impaler's chair, which is a prominent wartime hero and a hero of a saint in the Eastern Orthodox sect. And I think it's interesting that Vladimir Putin was the first person to sit in Vlad the Impaler's chair since Vlad the Impaler. Now, to understand the mind behind this and understand why this is always going to be an inevitability, I want to show you this. This is Alexander Dugin. Now, I have tried for many years to get people to understand why I'm so knowledgeable when it comes to this, and get people to understand why I knew that there was going to be a war in Ukraine, and why I was one of the very first whistleblowers to this. And anybody that watches my channel knows that I've been talking about this for years, all the way back to 2012, 2013. I was warning that war with China and Russia was inevitable. It was going to happen. It's only a matter of time. Didn't know the catalyst, didn't know how it was going to happen, but I knew now, after the spread of the thing, that eventually the next phase of this was going to be war. There's a book called Behold a Pale Horse, written by William Cooper in 1991. And William Cooper talked about in this book how they would enact H.R. 4079, which is the FEMA bill. And when they enact this, they would then create the regions by deploying the National Guard under a national health emergency. Okay? And this national health emergency would transpire by a pandemic. He talked about this in his book. He says this would be the beginning stages of the ushering in of the New World Order for the Club of Rome. Okay? And in his book, he specified in detail how this would be. And I find it quite interesting and intriguing that after this, there would be a calling, or a depopulation agenda, a war. Okay, and this has always been the plan of the elite, the elect, the people in charge, the richest of the world. You know, the Rockefellers and the Rothschilds and, George Soros and all these others who are in the higher echelons of power. Those in whom are seated at the Club of Rome, the highest echelons of what you would call the Illuminati. They are the seated kings. The Club of Rome is the seated kings. They are the ones that control the Illuminati, the Masons, Skull and Bone, etc. They are all intertwined together into one group. The only group that is different and is actually against this group is a group called Plus Ultra. I don't have a lot of time to talk about all of this right now. When I finish my compilation video and everything that I'm working on now, a lot of this information is going to be in there with visuals. I'm going to have links to all different types of things so you guys can study this yourselves and really become knowledgeable to the truth of what is going on here. But in this article, I wanted to read to you here this. It says, Alexander Dugin can often sound like a postmodern thinker straight out of late 20th century Paris. The Russian philosopher, political theorist, and far-right ideologue who has been called everything from Putin's brain to Putin's Rasputin, as well as the most dangerous philosopher in the world, makes it no secret that he has carefully studied left-wing thinkers and taken up their theories and tactics to advance his own reactionary agenda. Consider Dugin's thoughts on Marxism, which he describes in his influential book, The Fourth Political Theory. Now, if you guys want to read this book, I do suggest reading it because this is where, I was able to indulge in a lot of this information. And also, Glenn Beck did a whole series on this called The Root of It All, where he did a segment about Russia and Alexander Dugin back in 2015, which is no longer, you can no longer find this video. It's been taken down. So I tried to find it the other day, and when I did, it was playing part of the video and it shut it down. And then when you look for the link, it says no longer available. So it was taken down. But anyway, this man right here, okay, believes in destroying the West, okay? And he is a very, very evil man. He hates capitalism. He hates anything that has to do with democracy. And he believes that we in the West are destroying the world and must be destroyed. So, right here, it says, according to Dugin, concepts like democracy, human rights, individualism, and so on are not universal but uniquely Western values and should not be encouraged or pushed on other cultures, civilizations, or societies. That is complicated but not altogether incoherent notion. And Dugin manages to sound somewhat progressive even when discussing issues like gender. Now he just keeps on going on and going on and going on to talk about this. Okay, here it is. This is one of the things I was just explaining to you. The USA considers itself to be the logical conclusion and peak of Western civilization. But in essence, we are simply dealing with an updated version of continuation of a Western universalism that has been passed down from the Roman Empire, medieval Christianity, and modernity in terms of enlightenment and colonization. Western society is particularly afflicted with such an ethnocentric approach and universal pretensions rooted in its racist and colonialist past. The inner nature of such an attitude is rooted in the will to power and paranoid imposition of one's own identity on the other. This illness is called Western racism. He has literally played with Putin's mind, made Putin believe that the West is the enemy. And it was very easy to do this because Putin himself is an old KGB spy that used to work for the Soviet Empire. And he believes that the Soviet Empire was dealt foolishly with when they had to give up the Baltic region after the fall of the Berlin Wall. He believes that Russia should have never given this up, and it showed as a weakness. And Putin has been being plagued and played by Alexander Dugin for a long time now. And Putin is believing him. And Putin is doing everything that this man tells him to do. Because Putin himself claims to be an Orthodox Christian man. And I find it very funny because if you actually read who the Antichrist is, and the false prophet, Vladimir Putin does not have a woman, has no interest in women, has no interest in anything than strongholds and fortresses. Daniel chapter 11 speaks of this about this in detail. It says, and I quote, "He shall not worship a god of your fathers nor your forefathers, but he shall worship a god of fortresses, and he shall expand, and he shall help them and expand their glory." This is also Ezekiel 38. Okay. Now, he is a very interesting man because one, Russia is exactly due north of Israel. Moscow is exactly due north of Israel, and in Ezekiel 38, it literally says the name Rush in Mashish. Now, Mashish is ancient Moscow. Okay, it also talks about Tagarma, Libya, Tabul, and others that will be with him. Some people believe that I believe that it was ancient Tabul, or one of those was China. Um, so very interesting stuff here to think about. Like as this continues to escalate, like over the coming years, the days, months, and years, we're going to see an increase in a lot of things. As we could see, lawlessness is abounding, especially in our country, with um, you know our politicians putting criminals back on the streets. Um, Continuously allowing for violence to erupt, especially in these blue states now, where our officers are not able to do their jobs because they are being held back from doing their jobs. Um, it's just getting crazy. I mean, the other day I watched a man burn a house down. I called the fire department and they came to put the fire out, but still, my house was broken into over a month ago. Somebody hit and ran my car a couple months ago. I was punched by a meth addict walking my dog just because my dog was scared of him. This is just as what has happened to me. Now, what is happening to many others is ridiculous. Crime is rampant. People are falling apart. Brother against brother, sister against sister. With the electoral process now, and with liberal, leftist, and rightist Republicans, you now have this left-right paradigm or division to where even those in whom are in their own household will not even speak to one another. But father against son, son against father, mother-in-law, etc., as Jesus speaks of in Matthew 24. Like, this is what is happening in the world now, and people need to wake up. I would love to dive in and divulge more into a lot of this, but when my video comes out and shows the truth of what has been planned and what is to come, you all will understand why the hour is nigh. We need to prepare ourselves spiritually first, mentally and emotionally second, and physically third. We need to be able to take care of all that is around us. And the only way to do that is by giving yourself to the Most High God. Jesus Christ loves you. He loves me. He loves all of us. And he wants to see us all come to him.